Hello, I'm Declan Harvey. The top stories on BBC Newsline this Wednesday evening. After a night of rioting in Dublin, significant security measures have been brought in around a hotel for asylum seekers. Gardaí have blamed violent thugs for the disorder.
My clear message to persons attending any public gatherings is do not get involved in violent disorder. Reckless decisions in this regard may affect the course of your future.
Patient safety remains a concern at Northern Ireland's cardiac surgery hub as staff relationships are still described as dysfunctional. With inflation levels almost double the government's targets, we'll hear from one struggling mother who's been forced to skip meals so she can feed her daughter.
My daughter comes first, and if she needs to eat, I don't mind missing a meal in order to accompany her.
The next in our series of special reports on Lough Neagh, this evening a closer look at what's causing all the blue-green algae.
The highs and lows of the NFL. After a dream start in New York, Swatra's Jude McAtamney is released by the Giants.
And you may have heard there's a storm coming in, Storm Benjamin. It is not expected to impact the island of Ireland significantly. I'll be back with our full forecast.
Welcome to Wednesday's BBC Newsline. Significant extra security measures have been installed throughout the day around a hotel in Dublin after a protest turned violent there last night. The building has been used to house asylum seekers, and a demonstration was held outside after the alleged sexual assault of a young girl in the area. It's estimated 2,000 people had gathered. The Gardaí say it was organised on social media by groups intent on stirring up hatred and violence. Well, we can take you live to Dublin. Our reporter Kevin Sharkey standing by to speak to us. Nice to see you, Kevin. We should say you're in Sagart, which is near Tala, I think, southwest of the city. What's been happening there today?
Yes, and Declan, the violence of last night has caused dismay and no little distress in this small village of Sagart in West County Dublin. And the scene of the violence just a few hundred metres on the other side of the village. And today there's a major security operation in place there with steel fencing around the entrance to the complex and in the grounds. Gardaí are taking no chances, and they're determined that there will be no repeat of last night's violence here. The violence here last night was intense and sustained. Several thousand people came to protest. Dozens were here to cause mayhem, using fireworks, stones and bottles. Even horses and small carts known as sulkies were brought to the scene, adding to the disarray as the attacks on Garda lines continued, accompanied by angry and offensive shouting and chants. At lunchtime today, several lorry loads of steel barriers and fencing arrived here, part of a major security operation at the entrance and in the grounds of the complex, an indication of the Garda's decisive and robust response to the violence of last night.
I am determined that further persons will be identified and brought before the courts to face justice. This violent disorder impacted the local community, business and public transport in the Sagart area, directly affecting local residents. This is totally unacceptable.
The violence is also being addressed by the government.
It needs to be dealt with robustly. And we're very clear, and the Minister for Justice is very clear, that we are in total solidarity with An Garda Síochána.
The complex targeted during last night's protest and violence provides homes for families, including school children who attend local schools.
Within City West there are lots of children who go to all the schools here. I think it's very un-Irish, to be honest with you. We are a land of welcomes, we're a land of good people. We're a land of people who lift up those who are falling down.
And there will be people, perhaps beyond this community, who might wonder, was the violence of last night representative of this community?
Absolutely not. This is a very welcoming, warm community. There's huge inclusiveness here in the community. People from all over the world have been living in this community for the last 25 or 30 years.
Gardaí brought in their mounted support unit and water cannon, which didn't have to be used, as they successfully brought the violence under control. Well, this community is hoping for no more violence and a peaceful night ahead. But as darkness falls here in Sagard this evening, the people here are nervous. Declan?
Kevin, thank you. Kevin Sharkey. Experts say there is still significant risk to patients because staff at Northern Ireland's cardiac surgery hub aren't working well together. In May, it was revealed how dysfunctional relationships had become at the Royal Victoria Hospital in Belfast. As surgeons were said to have thrown instruments during operations and junior staff felt bullied. At the time, the Belfast Trust was put under special supervision, and today we got sight of a progress report. With me is our health reporter, Aileen Moyna. Aileen, thanks for coming in. This would suggest there has been little meaningful improvement?
Well, yes, Declan. Authors of this latest report, Peter McBride and Dr. Jennifer Hill, who are independent experts in senior leadership and in cultural change, and who were appointed by the Health Minister as part of those extra support measures for Belfast Trust, they have found that there is a fundamental breakdown in relationships between some of the consultant cardiac surgeons, that there is little trust between them, and consequently there is an ongoing risk to service delivery and to patient safety. Now, this report was giving an overview of the effectiveness of Belfast Trust's response to a cardiac surgery review, which was leaked back in May, just 5 months ago. Now, that review detailed a culture of poor behaviour by some heart surgeons and said the issues within the cardiac surgery unit had led to a significant risk to patient safety. And now today, we learn that there's still that significant risk associated with what the McBride-Hill report described as the dysfunctional team dynamics within the cardiac surgery team. And the authors have recommended that the Trust must monitor the cardiac surgery consultant team relationships and their impact on service delivery and patient safety.
So what will the Trust, or indeed the Health Minister, be making of this today?
Well, Declan, both Mike Nesbitt and Belfast Trust welcome this update on the Trust's performance and accountability. There is a recognition, though, and acceptance that cultural change doesn't happen overnight. It's very much a work in progress. But they remain committed to moving forward, to developing an action plan and implementing the recommendations. But Declan, it's important just to remember that when Belfast Trust was placed in those extra measures in June, the intervention about ensuring there is support, oversight and sustained focus from the department and those ministerial appointed independent experts to help the Trust, because remember, it's their responsibility to deliver the action plan for improvement and ensure that that leads to improvement of culture and working environment, and that does take time.
Aileen, thank you very much. Aileen Moyna. It is around 20 to 7 or so on BBC Newsline. Thanks for being with us. And still to come on the programme, archaeologists looking for traces of an old castle have in fact found evidence of an 8,000-year-old settlement in County Fermanagh. Now, the former Sinn Féin press officer Michael McMonigal, who was jailed for child sex offences last year, has been given a suspended sentence for breaching a court order. He admitted being in an online chat room without permission of his designated risk manager. He was released from prison on licence in August, and a judge will now decide whether to recall him to jail. Here's our North West reporter, Kieran Tourish.
44-year-old Michael McMonigal, formerly of Limewood Street in Derry, was jailed for child sex offences in November last year. They included attempting to incite 2 children to engage in sexual activity. He had in fact been communicating with undercover police officers when the offences were committed. He was back in court today in Limavady for breaching a sexual offences prevention order. A police officer said McMonigal was banned from accessing chat rooms without permission from a designated risk manager. The court was told that McMonigal had been asked for his device yesterday for it to be examined, and it was found that he had visited a site with a chat room element to it and had been in contact with a number of females. He had not informed his designated risk manager. He was later arrested. A defence solicitor said since his release from prison, McMonigal A former Sinn Féin press officer who'd worked with senior party figures had kept himself to himself. He said his conviction had had a significant effect on his life as he had a major fall from grace. The district judge, Peter King, said that the question of whether McMonigal should be returned to custody and his prison licence revoked was best decided by the Crown Court. The judge said that McMonigal had pleaded guilty and pointed out there had been nothing untoward in the chat room or anything sexual. He sentenced him to 1 month in prison. That was suspended for a year. Kieran Turish, BBC Newsline, Limavady Magistrates Court.
Next, we meet Alicia Mahaffey, a single mum who, like many others, is forced to make impossible choices at the dinner table. The cost of groceries has risen nearly 40% in the last 5 years, and it means, despite having a job and working hard, some nights Alicia skips dinner in order that her daughter can eat. Today, official figures show inflation, which is the rate at which prices increase, remains stuck at a level which is almost double the government's target. Here's our business correspondent, Patrick Fee.
Alicia Mahaffey is a single mother who works as a carer in the community. Although in employment, rising food costs over recent years have forced her to turn to her local food bank for support. But as prices have increased, even that support is not always enough to feed Alicia and her daughter.
When you have a young child, they want the snack and want the extra, and it's harder explaining to a young child that there is none or you can't have more, because if you eat it all in one day, there's going to be nothing for the rest of the week. Even if you had to skip a meal just in order for your child to eat, you do it in order to get them everything that they need, because they're younger and need it more.
You've had to skip meals to make sure you're...
Oh, definitely, because my daughter comes first, and if she needs to eat, I don't mind missing a meal in order to accompany her.
The latest ONS inflation figures show that food prices have fallen slightly from last month, but they are still up 4.5% in the year to September. But the real problem is the cumulative impact of years of food price inflation. In the 5 years to July of this year, food prices have risen by 37%. Put simply, a bag of food that cost you £10 back then now costs you £13.70. And individuals aren't the only ones feeling the pinch. Food banks like the one supporting Alicia are facing increased demand for their services, but higher food prices mean they see fewer items donated.
The struggle is there for everybody, but the price of what they would have donated means that actual less physical donations are going in that basket.
That means food banks are forced to close the gap, buying food themselves at today's higher prices. But the money required to do that is in short supply.
Fundraising across the UK is going down as people are trying to manage their own budgets. It's getting more increasingly difficult to service the food and service the needs of people, but we will always make sure that if somebody comes in, they will not be left empty-handed.
Today's news of a slight decline in food prices won't be easy to spot in your weekly shop. But for people struggling to feed themselves and their families, any relief is welcome. Patrick Fee, BBC Newsline.
A border poll is inevitable, according to former Taoiseach Bertie Ahern, but he's asking why more hasn't been done to examine how public services would be brought together if voters here choose to unite with the Republic. As one of the political leaders who helped secure the Good Friday Agreement, Mr Ahern has been speaking to the BBC's Borderland podcast about what he predicts would be the economic challenges.
I think if we start from the position who's going to pay for a new Ireland that we're going to vote on between now and Christmas, then people will say, oh, that's a colossal sum, we don't know how it's going to work. People will only support voting for a new Ireland, North and South, Unionists, Loyalists, Nationalist, Republicans, when they know what they're supporting.
There would be an economic challenge in this. And I mean, it's not obvious where the money comes from.
No, of course it'd be an economic challenge. I mean, to bring probably the best experience we've had in our lifetime is what happened in East Germany and West Germany. You know, a huge economy with huge population. And look, the challenges that created.
Latest episode of Borderland, UK or United Ireland, is available now on BBC Sounds or, of course, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, this week across BBC News NI, we've been taking stock of the problems in Lough Neagh after a third summer of blue-green algae blooms. The main causes of those blooms are excessive levels of nutrients from agriculture and wastewater. But a more complex picture is emerging, as our agriculture and environment correspondent Louise Cullen now reports.
Blue-green algae made the problems of Lough Neagh visible, but the causes behind those problems don't start in Lough Neagh. They start in the 4,000 square kilometre catchment that surrounds Lough Neagh, that makes up around 43% of Northern Ireland's landmass. What that means is that anything that goes on that land or down a drain within that land has the potential to end up in Lough Neagh. And so the problems don't start in Lough Neagh, they start very far away from it. Lough Neagh and its catchment have been in the headlines before.
We have got all kinds of problems with pollution. Some chemical, but not a great deal. Mostly agricultural wastes.
The phosphates in the main come from sewage. They're coming from you and me, in fact. The normal human sewage contains quite a lot of phosphorus.
Fast forward 5 decades and new elements have joined those main causes.
We have a rising temperature there due to climate change. We have an invasive species which is changing the ecology and the plankton of the loch, and then we have this massive surplus of nutrients that means it's an enriched broth.
For almost 20 years, farming has been subject to strict controls on how much nutrient, like phosphorus and nitrogen, can be put on the land. Farming leaders say that has reduced runoff, but agriculture is still a main contributor.
The Nutrients Action Programme on its own will not solve the Lough Neagh problem, but it is part of a journey that farmers have been on for 18 years, and we will continue with. Things when we look at bit technical, we look at things like P balances and soluble reactive phosphorus in our waterways. We see those levels falling, and that ties in with the practices that have been put on farm in order to create that fall. So those things are encouraging.
Processes introduced since the 70s mean phosphorus is now largely removed from sewage during processing.
We're getting better at understanding the levels that are being discharged back in following the treatment process, but that needs to reduce, I believe, and that's what we'd be keen to understand from the work that's going on with all the various groups and research.
But there are other changes in the loch. This invasive zebra mussel eats good algae but not blue-green, allowing it to flourish. And with climate change, Lough Neagh is warming at a faster rate than the land.
As things get warmer, it favours plant life, it favours plankton and algae growth and so on. But what will also go hand in hand with that is an increase in winds and storminess. And that will really upset the whole ecology of the loch quite significantly.
The fact that there are so many causes behind what's happening in Lough Neagh makes finding solutions for them all the more complicated and challenging. But there is work being done to try to tackle it. I'll be telling you more on BBC Newsline on Friday.
Louise Cullen there, and you can find out more about what's happening in Lough Neagh and also the potential solutions that are in play. It's all on our website. This evening there's the address for you. You'll also find it, of course, on the BBC News app. Now, when archaeologists and local school children went digging for traces of a 400-year-old castle in County Fermanagh, they didn't expect to discover fragments of an 8,000-year-old community. This story takes us to the village of Derrygonley and puts it well and truly on the map as home to one of the earliest settlements on this island. Here's our Southwest reporter, Elaine Mitchell.
This 400-year-old church is what first got archaeologists interested in a field in Derrygonley, because they knew a castle existed at the same time, but what they actually uncovered was a bit of a shock.
It's amazing because we came here very much focused on our 400-year-old castle, and we have found evidence for the castle, but we found all this prehistoric activity. So here we've got our early Mesolithic finds, so that's going back about 8,000–9,000 years, which is kind of mind-blowing. And you can see we've got like little tiny flints. These are called microliths because they're very small. So there were early Mesolithic people would have been, using the landscape here and maybe even living here in one of their camps.
This dig has been made possible through the Community Archaeology Programme. And for its 2-week run, around 200 volunteers helped. Some, like Roy here, uncovering treasure.
The community has embraced us. We've had absolutely dozens and dozens of members of the community coming, both to take part or to chat, or also for the walking tour. Everybody's talking about it in the town. There's an absolute buzz about it. And the payoff in the end of it is actually we have found stuff that we never thought, archaeology we never thought would be possible.
Guys, look what I found, moving. School children were among the helpers, and they too uncovered pieces of history.
I didn't know what it was, so I went up and asked the man, and he said it was very cool, and he went and showed his friends, and it was very old. I found a piece of glass, a piece of a brick, and loads of coal.
But most of the school children were just glad of a day outside the classroom.
You can see it even at playtime and things, the hands-on, getting, digging. They have just loved today. It has definitely made them question history a lot more in the classroom, is what I've kind of found. And I do definitely think we'll have some archaeologists in the future.
We are digging there, looking for artefacts. You really have to get into the soil, and you can always you can get dirty when you're trying to actually get into it.
And have you found anything?
Yeah, but not much.
Now that the dig has ended, this field has been restored to pasture, and these cows are grazing with 8,000 years of history beneath their feet. Elaine Mitchell, BBC Newsline in Derrygonnelly.
Now, exciting news, because we're adding to our suite of podcasts that we're offering you from the BBC. This one, again, for sports fans. We've seen a massive success with the GAA Social, and now, Gavin's here, rugby fans.
Yeah, everybody's got a podcast these days. Giving me one. It's shocking. And we've rounded up a superstar to get involved. Conor Murray is one of Irish rugby's most decorated players. The scrum half made 125 appearances for his country and won 5 Six Nations titles in a 15-year career. After retiring from the game in the summer, he fancied a new challenge and for some reason agreed to join me for a new podcast with some of the biggest names in the game. Here's a flavour of what's coming up this season on the Ireland Rugby Social.
Murray again. Jack McGrath. Conor Murray on his own. It's over and scores.
Why do you want to do this?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know yet. Yeah, just looking sucker for punishment, I guess. You can say what you want. You can
up to a point.
Up to a point and be responsible. But no, I love rugby and we enjoy talking about it. And well, I am moving to the north of Ireland, to Derry, with my beautiful wife and son. So it just makes sense. Yeah,
it was meant to be.
It was meant to be. It all just aligned. And rugby is such a big part of my life for so long. That I think staying connected to it is probably a good idea.
Do you want to speak to just your friends, or do you want to maybe speak to some guys who you maybe have an impression of?
Yeah. In
the other way?
Definitely. I want to speak to people who, yeah, I had a different impression of, but maybe to hear what they thought of us as like Irish players or playing against Munster, say, and see what their team talks were like when they talked about us, as because you know what. If you're playing New Zealand, you know what we talk about, the Barretts or whatever, and just to see what they said about, not me in particular, but my own teammates, and see what the perception was like out there.
We're up and running next week now. Jude McAtamney has been released by the New York Giants. The 25-year-old from Swatra missed 2 kicks as the Giants suffered a late collapse to lose the Denver Broncos at the weekend. McAtamney played in 4 NFL games this season following an injury to the first-choice kicker. Thomas Keane reports.
When you're an NFL kicker, there is very little room for error. Having already failed to convert an extra point earlier in the game,
and an important one for McAtamney.
With time ticking down in the final quarter, the pressure was very much on.
He missed earlier. And no, he missed that one again.
And McAtamney took full ownership.
I'm a professional kicker. I've got to be able to make those. I missed vital points at vital times today. I'm not going to shy away from that. Honestly, when I came off my foot, I thought it was good. Went for it, looked up and it was wide right. I was as shocked as everyone else, so I stuck to my process. Went for it, kicked down the target and pushed it right, so yeah, it's on me, yeah. Got to make the kicks. I'm not going to shy away from that. Look, I'll take full responsibility. You know, then everybody in change room down. Got to make mistakes once it comes up. It's as simple as that.
The Giants went on to lose a game that they were in control of for the majority of it. And McAtamney has paid the heavy price of being released by the franchise. He will be eligible to return to their practice squad as an international player, but there's been no confirmation of that yet. Thomas Kane, BBC Newsline.
To Brill business, finally, it's been confirmed that Olympic champion Daniel Whiffen is fit again and will lead the 13-strong Ireland squad at the European Short Course Swimming Championships in December. Whiffen was forced to pull out of the World Championships in July because of appendicitis. That is your sport tonight, Declan.
Gavin, thank you very much, and good luck with the Irish Rugby Social. Now, smooth as glass, the foil today, and lots of people actually had a pretty pleasant day, didn't they?
Yeah, there was some really nice weather around today, Declan, and as a result, our weather watchers obviously loving the fact there's a bit of blue sky to photograph. And from one part of the country, northwest down to the southeast, gorgeous for a time in our glass. And also in County Down, Oscar here enjoying the crunch of the autumn leaves beneath his paws. Now, we'll probably see some showers tonight. Some of them could be quite heavy over the next few hours, especially across Fermanagh and Armagh. And I think in many places there could be more wet weather tonight than there actually was today. The breeze starts to pick up towards the end of the night. Temperatures could drop a little bit lower in parts of County Down. So there will be some showers around first thing tomorrow. It will be a breezier day as well, but we are going to have another gap with some sunshine too. So early morning showers moving on, mid to late morning drying up many places with a bit of sunshine, and then later in the afternoon the next batch of showers moving in, so some wet weather to end the day because some of these showers could be quite heavy and they'll be accompanied by quite gusty winds, especially towards the north and west. It will feel a bit cooler tomorrow too. These showers will continue then for a while tomorrow night, some of them heavy, the winds quite gusty for a while, but by the end of the night I think many places will be dry. So Friday morning will dry up for a time. It won't be too chilly either, there'll be some sunshine, but we're focused on the northerly winds picking up later on Friday and into Saturday, which will bring some chilly air in for this weekend. So the best part of Friday then in the morning with some sunshine before a few showers get going and the breeze starts to pick up, temperatures close to average. But through Saturday and Sunday, temperatures will fall. It will be quite windy in places, particularly towards the north coast. Of the 2 days though, Saturday looks better with more in the way of sunshine. That's the forecast.
Cecilia, thank you very much for that. And that is BBC Newsline this evening. Thanks for watching. As ever, we appreciate it. Join us again tomorrow, if you can, 6:30 here on BBC One. Bye-bye.